Hello and welcome back to Hyperplay. Another day, another wicked little package from China. Today we have the XF43, the world's first review, unless Dead Fred got there first. Shout out to Dead Fred. Definitely subscribe to Retro Gaming by Dead Fred if you're into ultra-budget emulation handheld consoles like the XF43. We double-checked his channel and we don't think he has reviewed the XF43 yet. We reviewed the R43S just a couple of weeks ago. An emulation handheld console very similar to the XF43. It's got the same screen, it's got the same chip, the RG35XX, and a very similar price, coming at £29. This one, the XF43, is even cheaper. It's £27 delivered, and it has superb ergonomics, as you can see, and a nice big screen just like the R43S. In fact, the XF43, minor spoiler coming here, is better in every way to the R43S except for one key aspect, and we'll come to that later. First though, please would you do us a huge favour and press that like button? Thank you. So, unboxing the console, and it's very tastefully delivered actually. The box was very nice indeed. No major surprises on the back. Of course, it purports to have 4 GB of RAM, and the GB there is a gigabit rather than a gigabyte, which equates to half a gigabyte of RAM. But so be it, it is an ultra-budget console. Opening up the box, and lo and behold, we have a case inside for the console. It's the first time we've received a console in a case as standard, and we were delighted. I know other reviewers have had similar consoles like that delivered, but yeah, very smart indeed. So opening up the case, we can find the console, of course, upside down. We would not have packaged it that way, but fortunately it arrived in decent nick. Pulling out all the gubbins here, very flimsy screen protector. Don't bother, what's the point? The whole thing only costs 27 quid anyway. Instruction manual, actually quite useful, worth retaining with the shortcut keys to get into RetroArch, which is going to be select and X for your SNES games and other 16-bitters, but I believe it's select and B for the PSP. But to be honest, we wouldn't even bother with PSP games, and we'll show you why later. This is going to be a good little handheld for your 16-bit generation consoles and also Game Boy Advance. And a couple of other surprises. Actually goes up to 32-bit. One particular console, 32-bit, plays absolutely beautifully on this. A really lovely surprise. Taking out the console, what we first noticed was that it is indeed an ergonomic little number with a nice big screen. Don't worry about the bubbles on the front, that's just because of their own little screen protector applied. We'll whip that off. And holding it, yeah, it felt nice. It smelled a tiny bit of mushrooms, as sometimes these things do. So if you don't like the smell of mushrooms, maybe don't go for this one. But yeah, nicely textured, good quality plastic. And we can tell you that the buttons are a massive upgrade on something like the R36S. And when we reviewed the R43S a couple of weeks ago, the buttons there were pretty much the same as an R36S. Here, a huge improvement. These are really nice buttons. And the D-pad is a dream. Maybe a tiny, tiny bit stiff, but with a great pivot. Really nice to use, and the sticks are absolutely fine too, and they have that RGB lighting going on, which, don't worry, we'll sort that out so it's less offensive. What we did find when we turned on the XF43 was that it sounded absolutely great. The speakers were phenomenal, again much better than the R43S, and the music was actually quite nice. Let's have a listen. Actually sounds pretty good. Pretty good indeed, and I can confirm that when the games run well, and that's the crucial thing, when they run well, the sound is absolutely fantastic through these speakers. Talking of sound tests, let's get on to what we like to do with regard to testing SNES games, is run the opening to Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy VI. And if there are sound glitches, like we expect there to be, then we know that 16-bit emulation will not always be perfect on this device. But if the sound does then settle down and continue on to sound quite good, then we'll know that 16-bit emulation is largely fine. So let's have a listen. dip. Better. Stutter. So yes, just as with the R43S, there were a couple of minor sound dips and stutters at the start of Final Fantasy VI, but then it did all settle down. So we can confidently say that, provided you're happy with the occasional dip in audio quality, then 16-bit games like Final Fantasy VI will run absolutely perfectly. Certainly there were no graphical errors whatsoever, and it's all set up very nicely in RetroArch. You can go and change your scaling options as well if you want to. So as with the R43S, yeah, 16-bit SNES games, even the harder ones to run, are absolutely serviceable, especially for this price. What we didn't expect was just how good the PlayStation 1 emulation would be on the XF43. Let's have a listen in on the start of Ridge Racer 4. Yes, the start, select and shoulder buttons are that clicky, but the face buttons are an absolute dream. I do need to stress that they are absolute pleasure to press. They are soft and tactile, they don't make any noise, phenomenal for this price. As is PlayStation 1 emulation, as alluded to earlier. Ridge Racer 4, absolutely flawless. We got thoroughly engrossed in the game and totally forgot what we were doing. Absolutely loved it. Of course, we weren't any good at it, but it was a whole heap of fun. And so surprised were we by PlayStation 1 emulation that we thought, right, well, we'll put this little XF43 to the test and see if it can do bloody raw too. Again, with no anticipation whatsoever of success. But let's have a look. Of course, didn't have a Scooby-Doo clue what we were doing, but it was a whole heap of fun and had us jumping for joy come the end. Fantastic PS1 performance on the XF43. It's fair to say at this point we got a bit carried away and went for Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max on PSP. Unbelievably, it loaded up absolutely fine and looked an absolute picture to boot. I mean, these graphics and the colour and the saturation with our old friends Ryu and Chun-Li. Phenomenal. And here we go. Had a blast playing it for all of about 5 seconds before we hit a white screen of doom, only to come back to be kicked in the head by Chun-Li's spinning bird kick. Rather unfair. Well, obviously, would never have happened but for that interruption. Things didn't get much better on Dreamcast either. Crazy Taxi 2. Have a listen. Absolutely horrendous. So PSP and Dreamcast are no-go on the XF43, at least the way it comes configured out of the box. What is a great goer is the Game Boy Advance. And here we have Plumber's Dinosaur Chum racing around and around, and yeah, giving a spiky lizard a good old shoeing with a bunch of red shells. This game runs brilliantly, and we couldn't capture the screen resolution and saturation the way we wanted to on our camera, so sorry about that. But rest assured that Game Boy Advance looks and runs great. Talking of looking and running great, Game Boy Advance, we wanted to try out the HDMI, which we did with the R43S, and we expected similar results, given that all of the internals of the XF43 are the same as the R43S, and the R43S's HDMI-out was perfect, but we had a problem with the XF43 when it came to HDMI-out. And the problem was this: when the machine was plugged into the HDMI-out cable, it made a horrendous electrical rattly crackling sound, which actually made us slightly concerned for what was going on in the internals in terms of combustibility. I'm sure it was absolutely fine, and we didn't notice once we started playing the game, but try to have a listen to this. It's a bit difficult to pick up on my camera phone microphone, but it didn't sound good to us. Now I should mention that these electrical snap, crackle and pops that were emanating from the XF43 when it was plugged into the TV didn't arise when we were playing it unchained, uncabled, just as a handheld console, so it was quite odd that the HDMI function made it do that. But once we started playing our Boy Wears a Cap and Helps a Princess game on GBA, we didn't notice because we were engrossed by the fantastic screen quality that the XF43 was putting out. And again, no audio trouble, beautiful graphics. The XF43 plays a dream with HDMI out on the screen, just not in the hand, unfortunately. And it doesn't support Bluetooth, so you can't use Bluetooth controllers instead. But there we are. This is the only way, the only criterion in which the XF43 falls down in comparison to the R43S, because we deem it superior in every other regard, including price, of course, because it's cheaper. So if you can live with the electrical pop spells and whistles emanating from the XF43 while you're playing your games on TV, or you just don't want to consoleize it at all, then we would say the XF43 is an essential purchase, because it plays up to PS1, up to and including PS1, really, really well. It's only 27 quid, it comes with a bag, it's an absolute dream to hold, and it's got the best buttons this side of Anbernic. Remarkable. If you found this at all helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and all that remains to say is happy handheld gaming, vertical or horizontal. Goodbye.